Hey Internet, it's RJ. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning into this show today. Now, in the world of credit cards, we find ourselves in kind of a mid-cycle refresh, but where the cards are trying to change benefits, if you want to call them that, add credits, coupons, add more annual fee, of course. But the one thing they all have in common, no matter how these banks and cards go about it, is they have the habit of continuing to ask more from the customer, but provide less in actual value. And I think I have the answer. Instead of doing all of this, what if the bank simply decided to, provide more value and treat the customers better? It's a novel idea, I know. So let's go through some ways I think the banks could actually improve and maybe tie some value behind these annual fee hikes. Of course, that sounds interesting to you. Go ahead, press the subscribe button, and let's get to work. Now we're just, not too far off from the Sapphire Reserve going up to about $800. It's rumored that at the time of taping, the Platinum will go to $900. Southwest is clearly about to upgrade their cost of their cards. American Express has done it on some of their other cards. They're talking about a higher end Delta card. On and on and on. If you follow this or profitablecontent.com, our website, I'm sure you're well aware. And as we said in the open, they continue to ask more from us, not just in annual fees, but more in commitment. The Sapphire Reserve, to get what they would consider the top benefits, they're locked behind $75,000 a year in spend. The Platinum card, we used to give you unlimited access to lounges and some guest passes. Well, that's also locked behind $75,000 in spend. One of my favorite banks, Bank of America, to even get the preferred rewards, they're asking you to commit to banking with them smartly, even though the Smartly program has somewhat been nerfed and dead. For the OGs who got in the first 6 months, they're asking for $100,000 with them. Same with Bank of America. You get the point. They're asking for more, but I feel like they're continuously giving less the majority of the time. And I'm not so much talking about giving us more benefits and easier multipliers. I don't think that's going to change. But I do think that there are some simple things they could do to make sure value in their overall product is supported. Because right now it feels like it's a really old Bill Withers song, which is like one of my mom's favorite songs. Shout out if she actually watches this one. It was like, you use me up, or you get in front of a bunch of high-class people and you act real rude to me. I'm not going to sing it or play it because I'll get copyright strike, but some of you are grooving to it right now. I know, maybe my mom, if she made it this far. But here's what I'm talking about. Let's go through 10 things I think they could add that will, yes, acknowledge that this is going to cost the bank money, time, and development cost, but my overall thought here is that I tend not to leave products that were value, but I feel value is supported. And value can go beyond just the swipe of the credit card. And yes, I understand there's an argument here like, well, we also try to wring out as much value as we can from the banks. Yes, but we also, have banks that we keep for various reasons because we like and actually use and give our business to. So enough of a preamble. Let's get into it here. And maybe let me know what you think down below, as well as what you would like to see banks add. So the first one, and what brought this whole idea to video, is adding additional features, but specifically for business accounts like expense management or for personal accounts budgeting. What I mean by that is I recently signed up for Ramp because the Ramp is like an expense management for businesses, and I did it because they had an affiliate link for a $1,000 credit card offer, and I covered it on the second channel, Run on the Bank, if you are interested. But they are interested in real businesses, so it's not going to be for everyone. But anyways, what Ramp is, their free version. It's basically like if you've ever traveled for work and you use Workday or ADP, in past places, if my phone was provisioned through work, I could get the Workday app. And like if you're in there, trip, you could click start a trip and you could instantly add all your receipts as you go, so while you're sitting there, you don't have to lose around, fumble for receipts later, which is very helpful. It gives you a way to submit expenses. And ideally, it's set up for I would imagine small to medium-sized businesses to run expense management. They have a credit card linked to it. Well, as big as American Express is, who I actually use for my business bank account, wouldn't it be a novel idea if they incorporated some type of Ramp type setup into their program, right? They call it Business Blueprint, but they don't really do anything with it. There's just a regular checking account, your Amex cards. Of course, you can link some outside accounts, but expense management would be helpful to have. And if you said, hey, you have, the business platinum or whatever, but you also get access to expense management, well, I think we might be onto something. There is value in that for sure. I don't see anyone off. There's variations, but really they're just dead set on offering you travel stuff. Well, not every business travels. And the thing about Ramp is that credit card sucks and it doesn't offer any rewards. So to have your rewards cards work like that, where you can go in, swipe them, attach a receipt to that purchase and have it all for tax time, I think would be amazing. The same with the personal side, very similar, but you need a budget is very popular. when I was coming up in the YouTube game, 4 or 5 years ago, there was a lot of budgeting channels. You were either doing the cash envelope thing or you're sitting down and doing your you need a budget. Why should I have to pay for that when the bank already knows a lot of my expenses and you want me to move all my stuff over here anyways? Well, give me a reason to build in a budgeting thing so I don't have to pay for one over here. You need a budget. I don't believe it's free. Build that in, buy one. Now you've given me reason to actually want to run through one bank. So that's, things like that come to mind for sure. The second one here is spend trackers and credit trackers. Now, some banks have this to varying degrees. I think about the Freedom or the Discover and the Freedom Flex where, yeah, they have a spend tracker on your $1,500 a quarter, but it doesn't tell you the dollar amount. It's just like a percentage bar that only updates after the billing cycle. That's not super helpful. American Express does have dollar amount spend trackers on some of their credits, so I know it can be done. And again, the counter to the bank would be like, yeah, well, we want you not to be thinking about I got to hit exactly $1,500. But I mean, still, again, if you're providing value and treating me well and I'm doing it within inside the confines of the product, I don't know why you have to make it intentionally hard. It just seems like a reasonable thing that I would want to see, the dollar amount. Like that's why, yes, we have the gas gauge now, but cars have added, the estimate of how many exact miles till empty, things like that. That would go a long way. The credit tracker helps a lot, which kind of tells me, they're fine to do it when someone else is footing the bill. When it's theirs, they may not want to do it as much, but it's definitely doable. And you can clearly see they just stopped short of making it useful, which is not helpful. That would be a nice UI change. Confirmation of enrollment offer. A lot of times we sign up for these intro offers and there is no confirmation in the account. Sometimes there is. E-Trade was putting confirmations in your account. Bank of America, to their credit, will mail you home a letter more often than not to say you're enrolled. Why it has to be a mailed letter, I don't know. But at least it's a confirmation that you're enrolled. A lot of times, referral codes in links can get lost, especially when you go to the link and then you have to go log in if you're an existing customer. It would just simply be nice to have confirmation you're enrolled, because that's why we're here for the offer. Again, other banks do it. I know it's possible. We don't need to spend too much time on that one. To that point, I would say offer completion tracker. Some accounts have this. Chase was very spotty with it. Sometimes they have a spend tracker that counts towards the amount of spend. I used to have a clip of one. If I do, I'll still put it here. But, it would track your intro offer spend. Could that be made dynamic? So if you return, it moves it down. You spend makes it up as soon as the transaction posts. That would go a long way to make people feel better. And that, a lot of times with this, the last one, offer enrollment and then tracker, people are waiting for the bank to pull the rug, so to speak, where the fine print that I missed. So the more transparent you can make it, I think it would go a long way, especially if you are trying to win my business at that stage in the game. Number 5, annual fee reminders. Again, I know why they don't do this. They don't want you thinking about the annual fee coming due, but this just happened to me. So I was fresh off like 2 days ago. One of my Freedom cards was compromised and a bunch of fraudulent charges. I still had the physical card, so called it, got it sorted out. To their credit, it was painless. They even overnighted me a new card, or 2-day aired me a new card, which is great. But then the next day, the Amazon annual fee hit, which isn't, I know it's technically not an annual fee, it's a Prime membership, but Amazon and Chase, they're so well integrated between the two that, they could give me a heads up. Because what happens is I see, I'm like, I haven't used my Amazon card in a while, coming off of the fraud. I'm like, gosh, did I have to go cancel another card or, file another fraudulent claim? Well, no, it was just a Prime membership posting. I know they don't want you thinking about that, and they're probably not going to do it, but they could give you a heads up. And to all this, Apple, to their credit, will give me a heads up when my Microsoft Office subscription is coming due, because I just go through the App Store. And it's like $70 a year, but I use Office every single day. I'm reading off of PowerPoint slides. Well, that's not the list. That's the list. That slide will be the thumbnail later. But anyways, if value is supported, then I'm fine paying it. And that's the problem. Stop trying to hide behind it and trick people, and you're just thinking AutoPay is going to take care of it. Auto opt-in to 5x credit card rewards, specifically Chase and Discover. You could probably also put US Bank there, because U.S. Bank, I think you have to pick, and if you don't pick that, I think you don't get anything. I could be wrong about that. It's been a long time since I had a Cash Plus card. But, again, they do send out reminder emails, so I don't think it's a totally, hey, I want you to forget. I think it's more so we want to force interaction with the product which is somewhat fair, but why would I have gotten the card if I didn't want to if I didn't want the 5X categories? It just seems it's an unnecessary step, and I think they're trying to, again, push us to interact with the product, but it just doesn't come off that way. It's not hard, it's just silly. Like, why? That's the best, I guess, I can do. Why? Or why would I opt out? Once I'm opt, at least Bank of America, once I pick one, it just keeps going until I change it. So if I opt in once the car is activated, why would I opt out the next? I don't know. More self-service. And we have seen Chase start to do this a little bit. And Chase, in the app, you can now go through and you can manually move credit limit between cards when applicable, so the same product family, which is super helpful. That used to be a phone call. There's some other things we've seen as well over the years, but that was the most recent one. You can, a lot of times you can just request a credit limit increase now, especially through an option. That's nice, and sometimes they'll even be auto approved. But there's a lot of stuff that, you can't really do. The one that comes to mind for real that's really annoying is refunds. Anytime you get a refund to your credit card and it's just sitting there as a balance, there's not an easy way they want you to just spend it down. But sometimes if it's a few $100s, like, no, I want that money. I called Bank of America and they're, we got to mail you a check. Why? Just transfer it to my checking account, transfer it to my other card, or just move it from ledger to ledger. I know it can be done. That's annoying. That should be self-service if you have a refund. The same, I believe, with canceling cards and product changing. Now, I know there's disclosures and stuff they have to read to you, but yet no one reads you the disclosures when you apply for the card, so why do you have to verbally read them to me when I want a product change? They say they need to review your account. It's very quick, but I don't think that one's really, a lot of these are just that one's probably the most nitpicky thing on here. I don't think enough people will be interested in more self-service to that degree, if we're being super honest, but I am. A few more here. Chat message, call, and call back. It seems like not all the banks have various things. American Express known for chat. Chase does not have chat. Their instant messages, or their message is decent, but it's annoying. I do like the banks that if you're going to take a long time on hold, which you get to out of the big banks, the smaller you go, the longer it takes to be on hold. But the callback feature is nice. They could all just have a callback feature. Hey, just call me. Perfect. Huntington, I think, does that, which is nice because they know, like, hey, you're gonna be on hold for a while, so we'll just call you back. I would like to see more customer service options for contact expand, especially when it's gonna take a long time. Citi will let you do chat in app, but for the business side, not so much. Sometimes the business side is very lacking, which is annoying. Uniformity would be helpful. Two more. This is a big one. Application detail. So specifically, I would say credit levels like Capital One has. Well, Capital One just tells you, like, hey, they won't tell you the exact amount, but like, hey, if you got good credit, you want this one, fair credit, this one, great credit, this one. I think that'd be very helpful. I understand, again, they don't want to discourage anyone from applying, because even if you apply, they still get your information, and part of it becomes a lead for them. But I think that would be helpful. A big one, credit agency used. One of the biggest questions they get is, hey, what credit agency do they use? Well, I have no idea. But the reason they're asking is that I want to unfreeze that specific agency and not all three and play this guessing game. There's not even a reminder. Some places will do, but there's not really a reminder. If you forget to unfreeze it, you still get denied, and they'll mail you a denial letter, and sometimes it's not clear. I'm leaving the letters they send you off of this, but you get the point. There's a lot of stuff they could do, and if you're going into manual review, they could at least provide you with a status tracker or something. To that point, I don't really understand with communication why everything has to be a letter. Like, you could just email me would be fine, but it always has to be a letter. The last one I had is overarching. It's a more so account lock help. So, a lot of transactions, banks are very sensitive, and it's not uncommon to get your account locked for very mundane things if for whatever reason trips them. But once that happens, it can be very hard to get your account unlocked starting at the beginning. A lot of times you don't even know. Like, they don't send you a notification or anything like that. Like, if it was actually fraud, don't you think I should know about that? But they don't. You just kind of find out the next time you try to log in. The customer service can tell you one thing. Usually they're intentionally vague, like, hey, we'll review it 90 days or whatever. That's not good enough. If I go to a branch, if you have a branch and I present myself physically with government ID, like, it should be over. Not necessarily that you have to unlock it right away, but someone should be taking ownership of that and working with the back office, and we can't just it'll take 60 to 90 days to review this. Like, it's just simply not good enough when you're trying to go through. I understand the bank doesn't want to tell you their whole process because they feel that it'll make it easier for people to rip them off. Maybe not, but we need some level of transparency into the process of like, when can I reasonably expect, when's the SLA or service level agreement to get my money back, get this account unlocked, or the steps I need to take. Just this ambiguous, I don't know, maybe, well, I can't tell you anything, the letter will be in the mail, isn't really good enough. There's a lot of people who only bank with one bank because you told them to only bank with one bank because you want a relationship with them, and they just kind of get hit. And like, you could really be hard up if that was the case. So look, I could keep going for sure, but I'll turn it over to you. The gist of this overall is that, again, banking, it's one of the weird worlds where they ask, well, I guess this is happening more and more as we go around the world, or price changes and stuff, but they're asking for more and more, and they're providing less and less, and weirdly enough, they're more than capable of it. When I was getting that Chase card replaced, there's now in the app a tracker that says, hey, we mailed you your card, you can click the link and see it on UPS. That's very helpful, so why stop there? They add some things, but not other things. I'm not sure why, and I do think, with at least one bank, maybe two, that, hey, if you're, the Chase Sapphire Reserve business is $800. But with the travel credit, and Google Workspace, which I use, so that's $500 between the two. And then, hey, there's actually expense management tracking, like we said in the beginning, that manages, all my rewards cards, not just a terrible ramp card over there. That could be something to really win business. And then if you're all my freedom cards, but they have a budgeting tool that you might like to use. It's really robust. That could win enough business and like justify the increase in value, for example. I just feel like they keep asking more and more, using us until they use this up, if you will. We've now come full circle. So, as I said, let me turn it over to you. What do you think in this world where banks are continuing to ask more, demand more, require more? Are they giving enough? What could they give? You can ask for anything. I try to keep mine reasonable. As you noted, none of these are really, yes, these all cost money, but none of these are like, give me $500,000 in reward. So, but I'll take whatever you got down below. I'd love to hear from you either way. So, of course, thank you so much for watching. If you found it interesting, drop me a thumbs up, or better yet, consider subscribing to the channel. So you're posting content just like this every single week. And of course, right back here every Sunday with all the news you can use in the week that was in credit and finance. And of course, every single day over on Profitable.content.com, where we always treat you right, because we have the news, we have bank promotions, we want to test out some new banks, and of course, we have credit card offers as well. Some have some of those features, most don't, but they all have money, and that's what matters in the end. But anyways, guys, that'll do for this one. As always, thanks so much for watching. I'll talk to you very soon in the next one.